Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Raving Patients Podcast. As you know, I'm your host, Dr. Len Tao, and I hope everybody is doing great. This recording is on April 2nd, just so you know. The weather is starting to get better in all parts of the country. I am now based in Florida, beautiful weather down here, and I'm talking to someone today. We are going to be talking about getting back to the marketing fundamentals to experience consistent growth. My guest today runs a marketing agency, and as you know, most business owners are battling information overload when it comes to marketing. It's all so overwhelming, but it doesn't have to be that way. By focusing on fundamentals, we can simplify marketing while making it more effective. So my guest today is Tim Fitzpatrick from Rialto Marketing. Tim, thanks for joining me on the Raving Patients Podcast.
Thanks for having me, Len. I'm excited to be here.
Well, I'm excited to have you as a guest. I love talking to marketing people. As you know, in our brief introduction before we recorded this, I told you my marketing background. I help dentists all over the country with their marketing. So this is something I think we'll be able to really do a great deed to the audience and share some great information for them. So, Tim, I'm going to read your bio and let people know who you are, and then I want you to expand on it slightly, and then we'll jump into the real content of the episode. So Tim is an entrepreneur, business owner with expertise in marketing and business growth. He has 20 plus years of entrepreneurial experience with a passion for developing and growing businesses. That passion served him well in operating and managing a wholesale distribution company he co-owned for 9 years. The company grew an average of 60% a year before being acquired in 2005. Since then, he's had failures and successes, and that has been valuable learning experiences. He started Rialto Marketing in 2013 and has been helping service business simplify marketing so they can grow with less stress. Most people overcomplicate marketing. It doesn't have to be that way. So Tim, as we mentioned, I want you to kind of just expand on the bio a little bit, talk about a little bit about your background, what you're really focused on in helping businesses, and then we'll get into those marketing fundamentals that will help the clients experience consistent growth.
Sure. So my entrepreneurial journey started right after I got out of college. I would not say that I was one of those kids that was entrepreneurial, having a lemonade stand or selling baseball cards. I was not worried about that at that point. But when I got out of college, I had no idea what I wanted to do. And my dad had been a manufacturer's representative for a long time, and he had started a wholesale distribution company a year or two before. There were no full-time employees at that point, and I knew he needed some help. So I said, hey, look, let me help you for the summer while I figure out what I'm going to do with the rest of my life. Well, that was all she wrote. At the end of the summer, I was hooked. I loved what I was doing. We were selling home theater equipment, and I was shipping, I was receiving, I was selling, I was doing marketing, I was doing it all. And I said, look, if you'll have me, I would love to stay on and keep doing this because I'm really enjoying it. And so I did. I managed the company on a day-to-day basis. We grew 60% a year for 9 years until we sold it. And after that, I worked for the company for another 3 years. And then I actually got laid off by the company that bought us, interestingly enough, which is more common than some people might think. So, after that, I took some time off. I decided to get into real estate, and that was in about 2010. So I was in residential real estate, and most people say, Tim, what the hell were you thinking? 2010 was atrocious, but there are opportunities in any market, and in that market, it was foreclosures. There were a ton of short sales, people who wanted to sell their house for less than what it was worth, and so that's what I was doing. But after 2.5 years of doing that, I couldn't stand it. It was not my thing. It's a great field for some. For me, it was not. I did not enjoy it. And so I shifted gears again. And that's when I started Rialto, which is what I'm doing today. And we're working with, service businesses, just helping them get those fundamentals in place and then helping them execute on their marketing plan and implement it. So that's where I'm at.
And I know that you mentioned that you don't have many dental clients, but you help professional businesses grow. You have a lot of coaches, consultants, those types of things. I think you mentioned attorneys and accountants.
Yes.
And so definitely you work with professionals, which is obviously the dentists fall into that space.
Yes.
So I know we wanted to get into these fundamentals that will help practices, I guess, simplify things. So I think the most important thing that we want to talk about is how does a practice identify the ideal patient? Okay, one thing I can tell you is there's very different type of dental practices. Some are what we call fee for service. Some are insurance based. Some have Medicaid and Medicare. So obviously, I think identifying who the ideal patient is going to be an important part of the fundamentals. So why don't we start there, and then we'll jump into these other little features we want to talk about.
Yep, absolutely. And look, Len, I don't care what business it is, identifying your target market and understanding your ideal patients, or in other industries, your ideal clients, it is a fundamental element that drives the rest of your marketing. So, where I usually recommend people start when they've been in business for a while, they've got existing patients, they've got past patients, start by asking yourself 3 questions. Okay. The first one is, who do you enjoy serving, as patients? Why do you want to work with patients that are miserable to work with, right? They're difficult. They make your job harder. What's the point? Why do we start our own practices to create our own headaches, right? We didn't. So we want to work with with patients that make our life easier. That's the first thing. The second thing is, who are your most profitable patients? Some patients may be more profitable than others. Certainly, my guess is it depends on, who you're serving and whether you're working with, insurance and all those different elements. But some patients are going to be more profitable than others. If we're going to stay in business, we need to work with profitable patients. The third question is, who do you do your best work for, right? Who do you make happy most frequently? Okay. When you ask yourself those 3 questions, the group of patients that fall into that, you've answered positively to all 3 of those questions. That's where you start to dig into the demographics, the psychographics of that group to start to identify who your ideal patients may be. So when we're talking about demographics, we're talking about the numbers, right? Do they live in certain areas? Are they certain ages? Do they make a certain amount of money? Those are all examples of demographics. Psychographics are, their feelings. What's the common problem that they have? What's the result that they're looking for? All those things are really, really important. Frankly, I think the psychographics are equally, if not more important than the demographics. But when you look at that group and you start looking at the demographics and the psychographics, inevitably what happens is 1 to 3 subgroups come out of that. Those subgroups are your ideal client or your ideal patient types. It's the easiest place to start.
So dentist is looking to market their practice. They do no marketing. They're a new business. They don't have, I guess you can say, the best business acumen at this point. Talk to me about how a dentist would or any business for that matter, would decide a lot of those things. I mean, because if you're a new practice owner, you don't have the data to tell you that. So
right.
So talk to me about how do you recommend somebody, defines their ideal patient?
Yeah. In the beginning, if you have no data to work with, you're going to have to do some research and make some educated decisions, right? And those decisions, they may be right, they may be wrong, but you have to start somewhere, because if we try to target everyone as a patient, it's going to be very, very difficult. It's too broad. We need to focus it down. So from a dentist standpoint, most of the time you're serving people in a fairly defined geographic area to start. And so you're going to have to make some educated decisions about, okay, well, based on the services that I'm offering, who are my most likely patients that I'm going to do great work for, this is really going to resonate with. Okay. There's all kinds of research out there online. I mean, we can jump online and start doing research to gather data. Frankly, as a dentist, you're not the first person that's going into this business. So there's other people that are already in this business. Reach out to those people, talk to them, right? You don't have to reinvent the wheel. So find other dentists who have been in practice for a long time that are selling, similar services to you, and talk to them,
So tell me this. Let's make an assumption here. Let's say a practice is, let's say it's PPO heavy, so they take a lot of insurances, and
Yeah.
they wanna try to attract what we refer to as a cash paying or fee for service patient. So their ideal patient that they're looking to attract from a marketing perspective is going to be someone who is not bound by their insurance, that doesn't want to focus on just what the insurance does or will do.
Right.
So talk to me. Let's say we found, or a dentist knows who their ideal patient type is. How do you recommend then, once they identify it, how do you identify planning to attract those specific patients?
Well, once you know who those patients are, okay, we have to identify, well, it could be, do they tend to be located in very specific geographic areas, right? Mm-hmm. Or do they tend to fall into specific income ranges, right? If they are, well, then we can start to hone in on where specifically those people are. And then we can start to look, Facebook is a great place to target people, especially if you have a lot of demographic data. You could start to advertise that way to start to bring in potential patients, right?
So for those that are just understanding or just listening to this for the first time and don't know a lot about marketing, Facebook is some of the best targeting information because they have so much data about you. So you can literally target advertising to such a specified audience on Facebook, as Tim just mentioned. So just as an example, something we used to do, and this was more so a longer time ago, but I still remember from a specific target audience, firefighters and teachers have really good insurance for services like Invisalign. So we were targeting based on the fact that they were a firefighter or a teacher in Philadelphia who were looking to improve their smile. So you have that specific audience that you can target using the information that Facebook has gotten over the years from their clients, which are us, using their software. So that's what you mean by that. Is that correct, Tim?
Yes, absolutely. Right. But that campaign you just mentioned, you can't do anything with that until you know exactly who those people are. You knew that you were trying to reach firefighters, for example. Well, that's great. That's awesome information. Now you can figure out where those firefighters are to get that message in front of them. But if you're just trying to attract anybody, well, they're all over the place. It's too broad. We have to narrow it down. And then we can start to hone in on where those people are, and then we can get our message in front of them.
Yeah, it's hard, especially knowing how far someone's going to want to travel to your office. Right. I've had patients who travel from Washington, D.C. or New York without a problem. And then when you target for specific advertising means, they don't want to drive 10 miles, which is not that far. So, that is a very big, I guess it can almost be a little bit frustrating when you're trying to do it because you're tweaking the ads, you're tweaking the campaigns to see what's going to work the best. So it may be a learning curve when it comes to getting these ads to run effectively based on these specific target audiences that you're attracting or trying to attract.
To me, Len, it's all about testing, right? You've gathered the data, and based on the data that you have, you're going to make the best decision that you can with that data. And once you put it out there, then you can start to test it, because sometimes what you think is actually going to happen doesn't. Something that you didn't think might work starts to hit. It's that testing and then taking the updated data that you have and making course corrections and adjustments along the way that makes all the difference in the world. Marketing is not a set it and forget it activity.
No, it's not a one-time event. It's not an idea of the week. It's a fully funded budget that you need, and you need to tweak things. You need to that's why I don't recommend that dentists do these things themselves, because setting up a Google AdWord is a lot more extensive than they think to do, and
Yeah.
most of them waste their money. You know, I speaking of Google AdWords, I find I was working with an orthodontist, pediatric dentist in North Carolina, and they were doing about $2,800 to $3,000 in ad spend on Google AdWords, which is a nice spend. And we looked at the data, and we found that 65% of their clicks were branded clicks. People were looking them up and they were clicking on the ad, and they basically were thus wasting money, in my opinion, because it was a branded search. And when you do a branded search of a business, unless you have the same name as someone else, the branded search is going to bring everything up about that company anyway. So to me, that's a waste of money when you're spending that much money on branded searches. But he did it himself, and he thought that he was going by what Google told him, and he thought he was getting really good results. Obviously, when you may have good results, but a lot of those clicks would never need to go to the ad spend if they're looking for you anyway. So these are all things, as we're talking about, that I think the amateur dentists, the amateur marketers who are trying to play dentist, the dentists who are trying to play amateur marketing. Jeez, that was terrible. So
I knew what you meant.
Yeah, you know what I meant. I hope the guests think what I meant, because that didn't come out right at all. But the listeners need to understand that if you are a dentist, don't play amateur marketer and expect you to get really good results. You need to go to a trained professional who knows what they're doing, especially when it comes to tweaking. And you mentioned testing, Tim. So talk to me, and we're going to break a little bit away from what we wanted to talk about here. But talk to me away. If somebody says to you, you know, I want to do some Google AdWords, I want to do some Facebook funnels, I want to do, whatever you say from a social perspective. You mentioned the testing. Talk about the process that someone would go through when they say, I'm ready to do some marketing, how you handle that.
Yeah, so if we're looking at, paid ads of some type, the first thing that we're going to look at is, again, that target market. In the case of dentists, who are the ideal patients? Because it all starts with that. Because if we don't know that, we're going to end up wasting time and money. We've got to be as targeted as we possibly can be, so that we're giving ourselves the best possible opportunity to attract your ideal patients. So that's where we've got to start, especially with Facebook, because as you mentioned, the targeting that you have with Facebook is off the charts. So we can take a lot of that ideal patient data and make sure that we're targeting your ads towards those people that are going to be the best fit. Google is slightly different, because with Google, you're targeting keywords or search terms that they're using, and your ads are showing up that way. So you can't really target from an ideal patient standpoint. You're really looking at keywords that you're going to target. But we've got to put that plan in place of what keywords are we going to target, or what attributes are we going to target within Facebook. And then we've got to look at what's that offer going to be? Where are we going to send those people? And how are we going to track that? One of the biggest mistakes I see people make with Google ads, they put up an ad and they drive the traffic right back to the homepage of their website.
Yeah.
They can't track form fills on there. They can't track phone calls, nothing. So if some of your dentist clients are thinking about getting into Google ads, one of the most simple things that you can do is make sure that you're sending that paid ad traffic to a landing page, a website page that is set up specifically for that ad, and have call tracking on there and your form tracking, so that you know exactly what's working and what's not with those ads. The tracking capability, especially with paid ads, is there, so you'll know what's working and what's not if you set it up correctly.
What do you think about when we mentioned Google and Facebook? Those are obviously maybe Instagram as well, but that's part of Facebook's ground there. What do you think about when people talk about doing one or both of those? Obviously, that on people who are on Google, they're searching for a specific procedure that they're looking to do. And if you have an ad, that means people are very interested in hearing more about that particular service. You send them to the landing page on your website, or the page on your website dedicated to that information. So for an example, Invisalign, they want to do Invisalign, they're searching for Invisalign dentist, whatever it is, you take them to your website, either to an Invisalign landing page or the Invisalign page within your website. Someone on Facebook is very different. A lot of times, because they're not searching for anything on Facebook, your ad is popping up in their feed. So can you talk about specifically that difference there? Because there was a distinctive difference there.
Yes, huge difference. So like you said, on Google Ads, if I type in Invisalign Dentist Denver, well, I've got pretty high buying intent there, right? I am much further down the customer journey being ready to buy with Google. And that's one of the powerful things with Google is we can target keywords that signify that person is very close to making a purchasing decision. And so those leads tend to be much hotter. Now with Facebook, as you mentioned, Len, we're not going on social media in most cases to find something to buy. Those ads that are showing up on social media are interrupting what we're doing. They're interrupting something else. So from a marketing perspective, we talk about those people are much higher up the buyer's journey. They're not looking for Invisalign at that point. So oftentimes what you see with Facebook ads is people are offering something of value. Maybe it's, and it's not talking about Invisalign specifically. It might be something about how do you straighten your teeth without braces, right?
Yep.
Or something like that. You're focusing more on the problem that people may have and offering something of value to help them with that problem. And when you do that, they're giving you their name, their email address, and now you've got the opportunity via email to nurture them. If you can retarget them, as you just said. So with retargeting, we've captured some information. We know that they visited, the specific landing page that we had set up for that ad. And now if we want to target them with a slightly different ad on Facebook, we can do that. So they're further up. We're not selling immediately on places like Facebook. We're offering something of value, capturing their information, and now we can start to nurture that lead. So it's a longer buy process than it is with something like Google Ads.
Is that the reason why Facebook ads are much less expensive than Google ads, because the quality of the lead is not as good per se, or it's just Facebook is Facebook and Google's Google, Instagram's Instagram. It's because the specific platform it's on is just not as expensive to advertise.
Yeah, they're just different. It's not apples to apples. It's apples to oranges. So, at some point, some of those ad costs may increase, right? And Facebook may become, more expensive or on par. But right now, it's just not. And I think that's also why a lot of people really like Facebook ads. But if you're going to get into Facebook ads, you have to be prepared. It's a much longer process, and you have to have a lot more steps in your marketing plan to be able to actually nurture and convert those leads.
Yeah, I've done a number of different, we'll call them funnels, Google ads and Facebook funnels, and the quality of the patient that comes from Facebook, in my opinion, is not as good as those that come from Google. What's really interesting, though, it's easier to track. Even with call trackers, it's still easier to track, because someone will come in and say, well, I found you on Google. Well, for me, I am all over Google. I'm very visible on Google. So was it an ad which patients don't tell you, I clicked on your ad? They don't say that, okay? So they don't say that. Is it the maps where my reviews are? Do they see that? Do they see my website? Do they see something else with my name on it? On Facebook, they say, well, I saw you on Facebook. I mean, and remember, it's not like I put posts. I don't do that much Facebook posting, just generic stuff. I rely on my ads to drive patients to my practice. So when someone says I saw you on Facebook, they saw a Facebook ad. I mean, that's what it comes down to. It's a very, very different way to track it too. Even though you have tracking numbers and it's really important to track, it's much easier to know someone found you on Facebook because they say, I found you on Facebook. It's that simple. So,
well, another thing that I think if any of your dentists are thinking about getting into Facebook ads and they're not quite sure. Man, the Facebook ads library, if you just Google Facebook ads library and click on that, you can type in anybody that is advertising on Facebook and look at all their ads to deconstruct that. So if you're not quite sure, or you want to educate yourself a little bit on what some of your competitors may be doing, you can absolutely do that with the Facebook ads library. There's all kinds of information in there.
Yeah, no, it definitely sounds like, a little bit of each, in my opinion, is probably the best bang for the buck. But you also have to know that you have using a company that knows what they're doing. And again, I go back to the fact, if you're a dentist trying to play amateur marketer, I think it's the best way to do it is to go to someone who knows what they're doing, in my opinion.
Agreed.
So at least we're in agreement there. So,
yeah.
I know again, something we didn't have on the list of things we want to talk, but I'm curious because it's my space myself. Talk to me about how you feel reviews play a role in this process.
Reviews are invaluable. You have to have them. If you do not have a system within your practice to consistently request, get, and respond to reviews, you are missing out, because you're missing out on business and you don't even know it, because those people never even contact you. Because if you think about, I'll just tell you my process, and I don't think that I am much different than most people. If I'm looking for a dentist and I don't have a referral from somebody that I already know, I am going online and I am typing in dentist wherever I live. Dentist Highlands Ranch, dentist Denver, whatever.
Correct.
And I am looking at the dentists that show up in the map search. That's where I'm starting. And in the map search, there's three dentists listed there. I can see their reviews. What do? I look at the dentist that has the most reviews. As long as they're high, I am clicking on their website first. If I like it, I may start to check out some of their social media just to see what they're doing there. And then I may pick up if I like that, then I'm going to pick up the phone and I'm going to see what they say. But that's how I'm going through my process. So if your competitors have 100 reviews and they're at 4.8 stars, and you have 5 reviews and you're at 5 stars, you ain't getting calls. That's just the reality of it. So reviews for any local business, whether it's a dentist or, a home service provider, they are invaluable, and you have to have a system in place to get reviews.
And that's great. That's my space, so I love hearing that. That was, and guys, there was no discussion of reviews prior to our recording this. So that was kind of
you didn't pay me to say that.
No, I did not. So what about what your feeling is, and when it comes to reviews, if somebody comes to you and they have minimal reviews online, yes, we know that they need to get more of them. Okay, we're both in agreement on that. But how do you think the other marketing, such as the Facebook ads, the Google AdWords, and anything else they're doing, whether it's radio or TV, performs without enough reviews?
It's gonna struggle, because people don't always fill out. Let's say somebody clicks on your Google ad and they go to your page. What do you think they're doing before they actually complete that page? They may pull up your website and look at your website. They may look at you they're still doing that research that I just talked about. So as part of that process, if they don't see those reviews, it's going to impact whether they choose to move forward or not. So reviews.
You would agree with the fact that would you recommend they pause some of those efforts until they have more reviews, or just do a minimal spend for some? Because that's my struggle sometimes with people is I tell them they need to focus on getting reviews before they do the marketing, because if you're not credible enough, the marketing is going to fail, in my opinion. So how do you handle this? Do you recommend they start with a lower budget and then increase as they get more reviews? Answer it from that perspective.
Yeah, so I think it depends on the competitors in their space, in their geographic area, right? If you have some reviews, but a lot of your competitors have way more, I think you're probably going to be better off doing a concerted push to build up your reviews first before you start investing heavily. But look, there are some industries or some geographic areas, right, where maybe there's not a lot of competition. If there's not a lot of competition, and you're all in that, I've got 10 reviews because nobody's been focusing on them, well, then it's probably not that big of a deal. So I don't think you can say just as a broad stroke that you need to do this. I think you need to look at where you sit compared to the rest of your competitors and then make a decision from there. But reviews they're critical. You got to have them. It's just, I would not want to be in business as a dentist and not have a system in place to get those reviews, because people are making buying decisions based on that. I guarantee it.
Gotcha. Okay, so I want to go back on track here and get to the messaging part. How do you create a clear, engaging messaging when you do your marketing? If you have your target audience, how do you create this clear, engaging messaging?
Yeah. So we use a storytelling framework. I didn't invent this. It's from a company called StoryBrand. They kind of popularized it. But what we're doing when we use this framework is we're inviting your potential patients, your patients, into a story where they're the hero and you are the guide who is going to help them. My teeth are totally crooked. They need to be straightened. I don't know what to do. What's the process, right? You are the guide that is going to help them get from where they are to where they want to be. And when we do that, it does a couple things. One, it helps you focus your messaging on what really matters. Like, I'm just going to give you a perfect example, Len. Before we jumped on this call, I did a search for dentists in my area, and I looked at 5 to 10 different dentist websites. If I took their logos away, I'd have no idea who the hell they are. They all say the same thing, which isn't much. They're focusing on their business and who they are, and not what they can do for the patient. And patients, customers, they don't care about us. What they care about is what we can do for them. What problem can we solve for them? That's what they care about. And so when you use this framework, it enables you to do that. Focus your messaging on the patient and not your business. Super important. And the other thing it helps you do is be clear. If we get clever with how we communicate the value that we offer and make people think, they're gone. We're totally impatient at this point. So if we land on your website and the message there just doesn't resonate with us, it doesn't sit, or we don't really understand, or we don't get it, we're moving on. We're going back to the Google search and we're clicking the next website. So super, super important to have consistent, clear messaging that focuses on the patient and not your business. Yes, you need to position yourself as the guide, right? So your certifications, awards you've won, testimonials. You want to feature things like that on the homepage of your website, but you don't need a ton of it. Just enough to position yourself as the guide, the authority, and then the rest of your messaging needs to focus on what you can do for patients.
Gotcha. That makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense to me. So ultimately, you have who your ideal patient is. You set up the ideal messaging. What is the best way, or what are the best resources within someone's armamentarium to create a simple marketing plan? Because ultimately, I think that dentists get overwhelmed with trying to figure this out, and they use a company, they can't trust the company, they feel that the company's only good at one thing when the company has told them they can do everything, which I think is a big red flag anyway. So talk to me about what's the best way for these offices or these dentists to create a simple marketing plan to help them bring in more new patients. I mean, that's the ultimate goal.
Yeah. So we use a 90-day marketing plan. I look at marketing plan and marketing in 90-day sprints. Okay, our businesses are evolving, things are changing quickly. 90 days is long enough to start to see things take shape, but it's short enough where when we look at and test things, we can look at what's working and what's not and make course corrections. I think people try to include far too many things in their marketing plans, and they become complicated. And when things are complicated, complexity is the enemy of results. Okay. It's just not going to happen. So I'll run through these 6 steps really quick. Okay. First is your target market. Who are your ideal patients? Even if you just have a paragraph on if you only have one ideal patient, who is that one ideal patient? Put a paragraph together of what are the demographics? What are they like? If you start with that, it's always keeping top of mind who you intend to attract to your practice. The second thing is, what's your goal? We gotta know what we're working towards. That 90-day goal is certainly something that should support and get you closer to your 1-year goal or your 3-year goal, whatever it may be. So maybe we want to bring on 10 new patients in the next 90 days. Whatever it may be, but it's specific, it's measurable. Okay, we know where we're headed. The third thing is, what's our budget and what are our resources? This gives us an idea of what we have to work with. So do you have $2,000 a month to spend on your marketing, or do you have 500? Do you have people on staff who have the capability and the time to do some of your marketing? If you do, well, great. If you don't, that's okay too, but you have to know what you have to work with. Because if you tell, Gina, your office manager, to manage your social media, and she can't stand it, she hates it, and she's not good at it, well, it's not going to be effective. So we need to know the capabilities we have as well. The fourth thing is, what's our current plan? Okay. And when I say that, Len, I realize that some practice owners may not have a current plan. That's okay. We just need to get down on paper where we're starting from. Because if we don't know where we're starting from and have that baseline, it's impossible to figure out what we need to do to get to where we want to be. It's like my GPS. I tell it I want to go to DIA. Well, it's not telling me how to get to Denver International Airport until I first tell it where I'm starting from. This is no different. Okay. Then the fifth step is, what are we going to focus on in the next 90 days? Now, what you intend to focus on is going to depend on what your budget is and what resources you have and what you've done up to this point. But if you're only focusing on 1 or 2 things in your plan for the next 90 days, that's okay. At least you have marching orders and you know exactly where you're focused on. It helps eliminate distraction because there's so many different things going on with marketing. Next week, you're going to see something come across that says, oh, you need to do this or you need to do that. Well, if you got a plan in place, you can go, you know what? No. I'll put it on my list of maybe down the road, but right now, I got my marching orders and I'm going to remain focused and disciplined and eliminate distraction. And then the sixth thing is, what metrics am I going to track? The metrics you track are going to help you determine whether the actions you're taking are effective or not. I was a math major, so I can get into the weeds on this stuff. We need to keep this simple. Focus on, the 1, 2, maybe 3 high-level metrics that are really going to signify whether what you're doing is working or not, and eliminate the rest of the noise. Keep this simple, and then just implement. Look at it at the end of 90 days, make your course corrections, and wash, rinse, and repeat. I think, as you said too, Len, it's important. You may not be, maybe you're involved in this as the dentist or the practice owner, but the biggest mistake I see people make with their marketing plans is they do not have a single person that is responsible for driving it. They've got an SEO person here, and they've got somebody doing social and somebody doing paid ads. Well, those people, nobody's driving those people, and so they're not on the same page. And then their plan becomes very disjointed. That's what you want to avoid that if at all possible. So that's the plan. Simple, 6 steps, wash, rinse, and repeat.
I mean, that sounds really good. So I'm going to have you we're going to do our close in a couple seconds here. I want to do the Would You Rather, but is there anything else that you think is really important that you wanted to get out to the listeners right now?
I think the important thing is to view marketing as an investment and not an expense in your business. If it's an expense, it's something you can cut. And
you
when
can't
things
afford.
go down, yeah, or you can't afford, and you can just cut it. But marketing is not a light switch that you turn on and off. You have to view it like an investment in your 401k where you're putting money in each and every month. And each and every month, it just continues to grow. It's like a flywheel. You just keep feeding the flywheel. And the more you feed it, it starts to gain momentum and momentum. And then once you're at that point of critical mass, you just need to keep feeding it and it will keep feeding you. But if you stop, it's going to take you that much longer to get back up there. So view it as an investment in your business. Because if you don't have marketing bringing in leads and new patients, you could be the best dentist in the world. It doesn't freaking matter.
I agree with that 100%. I teach that. I have a big meme about it. Marketing is an investment, not an expense. It's not something that you can afford to do. It's something you have to do to grow your business. So I agree with you 100% on that. So let's jump into the fun part for me. 10 questions. Would you rather?
Okay.
I'll shuffle it up. Nothing inappropriate, as I like to say. And, so what you do here is give your response or give your answer and why. Okay, it could be short, simple, but answer and why. Okay.
I'll do my best.
All right. So the first one is: would you rather have creamy or chunky peanut butter?
Creamy by far. I don't like the consistency of chunky peanut butter.
Okay. Would you rather be forced to high five everyone you make eye contact with, or strike up conversations with 5 strangers a day?
Oh man, I would say strike up 5 conversations.
Okay. All right.
Because I think you're going to get a lot more meaning out of it than you will just high-fiving people.
Somebody.
Yeah.
Would you rather be able to erase people's memory or predict their future?
Predict their future. I don't know. Erasing their memory just seems cruel.
All right. Here's a dental one. Would you rather have your jaws wired shut for a month where you're only able to drink out of a straw, or wear an eye patch for a year?
Oh my God. That's an awful question, Len. I would say have my jaw wired for a month.
Yeah, month versus a year. So.
Yeah, I hope neither one of those things happens. But yeah, I drink a lot of shakes, so I just drink more.
Okay. All right. Another interesting one here. Would you rather blow up 100 balloons or lick 500 envelopes?
Oh my God. I think I'd rather lick 500 envelopes. I don't know. When I blow up too many balloons, my mouth starts to hurt. So I'm just going to say I'd rather lick 500 envelopes.
Okay. Would you rather have your face printed on money or own your own small town named in your honor?
I think I would rather have my face on the money.
Okay.
More people, more exposure.
Hey, nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Would you rather wear a monitor that beeps when you're lying or beeps when you're attracted to somebody?
I beeps when I'm lying.
Okay.
Because I don't tend to lie. So
yeah, there you go. That's important. That's important. Would you rather spend your night in a dirty dumpster or a dirty porta potty?
Oh, jeez. I think a dirty dumpster. At least maybe there's more space to find a somewhat clean spot.
Yeah, none of those are good choices, though.
No, they're not.
You don't want to, okay. Would you rather? That's dumb. I'm not going to ask that one. Let's see. Would you rather have to wear adult diapers the rest of your life, or never wear underwear again?
Never wear underwear again.
All right. And last but not least, and I always ask this question, this is one of the ones that everybody gets, is would you never be able to use search engines again or never use smartphone apps again?
Never use smartphone apps.
So Google searching is important.
Google search, man, the information's all there.
Yep, exactly. That's all you need. So
yeah, I'm one of those people. I mean, I do use some apps, but I'm not tied to any one of them. So
All right, perfect. Well, thank you for allowing me to do that. I think that's a little fun part. People I speak
was
to
fun.
when they listen to these episodes like that part. They wait to listen to that part. So, let's have a way for people to reach out to you, get information, find out more about what Rialto can do for them. So, would you provide the guests that information? If you want to offer them something, please do.
yeah, absolutely. The best place to go is our website, which is rialtomarketing.com. So that's RIALTO marketing.com. If you want some free resources that help support some of the stuff that we talked about today from a fundamental standpoint, we set up a special link for your listeners, which is rialtomarketing.com/the-raving-patients. And there's free resources there. If you get stuck, you need some help, click the get a free consult button. Be happy to chat with you and help you push through any of your marketing roadblocks. So,
And if they wanted to get a hold of you, is there any way to contact you? You have an email address or anything?
yeah, you know what? The best place is to find me on LinkedIn.
Okay.
Tim Fitzpatrick. Just shoot over on LinkedIn. I'm there. The links to all of our social channels are on our website too. So that's the easiest place.
Okay, that's great. Thank you so much. So, guys, if you have any questions for Tim or want to reach out to him for what he can do for your dental office, please reach out to him and get in touch with him. That would be great. And mention you heard about him on the Raving Patients Podcast. Tim, this was great content, great communication. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really enjoyed our conversation. If you liked the episode, please share it with your friends and colleagues. Go ahead to Apple Podcasts and subscribe to our podcast so you get all the latest and greatest episodes that come out Friday at 1 p.m. If you want to speak with me at all, most people know how to get a hold of me. Just find me online as well, and we can talk about case acceptance, reviews, you name it. I can speak about it as well. And as I always end these episodes, remember, your reputation matters. Until the next episode, Tim, thanks again for joining me, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks.